Hi there, I'm Matto, and welcome to another devlog for Night Run. In this video, I'm going to talk about how we approached the structure of the NFT collection and how that responds to the current kind of market meta in the NFT scene. Let's get started. So welcome back. As you may be able to hear, my voice is a little jacked up. I've had a little bit of a cold, but the show must go on. So here we are. You're going to hear a little bit of raspy voice. So we just did a devlog a couple of weeks ago talking about the experience of minting out the project and what that was like and what was involved. And what I want to talk to here is the approach that we took to structuring the rarity for the NFT collection. So for those who are not familiar, one of the kind of interesting layers that NFT collections tend to incorporate is the idea of a kind of a predetermined rarity of assets. Let's say we have 10,000 profile picture assets. There may be only a handful, one or two of kind of ultra rare specific assets. Usually they're kind of visibly shiny or something, so you can also visually see that they're rare. And those will command a premium on the market, right? And creating this kind of gradient of rarity across a collection is a kind of a way to create surface area for traders to kind of play the game of trading these NFTs, right? You can almost think of it as a kind of a level design for the trading game of NFTs, of trading a given collection, right? You're kind of creating a landscape of rarity that people are exploring, trying to find rare traits, trying to find rare items, and then trading them at a premium. There's a trend going on in the NFT market now, which is of war between the marketplaces. So OpenSea is the kind of incumbent biggest marketplace. There was a marketplace called LooksRare that opened that did what's called a vampire attack on OpenSea by launching, airdropping a token, basically giving people free money to try their product, right? And this is not something that's unique to the NFT space. This is something that we saw PayPal do to great effect early on in their history. They just said, we'll give you $10 if you'll try PayPal, right? And that can turn out to be like a valid customer acquisition strategy. The latest entrant into this space is a protocol platform called Blur, and Blur has come in and launched a pretty slick trading tool, and also just recently, just a few days ago, done the second round of airdrops to users, giving out Blur coins to either people who trade on the platform and do certain things, placing bids, or also to collections that are traded on the platform. So full disclosure, we as projects being traded on the platform did get actually some coins from that airdrop, and not a tiny amount, which was pretty surprising. The thing that I see happening with this kind of warfare between the marketplaces, and specifically the kind of UI UX of Blur and their approach to things, is what I call the kind of shitcoinification of NFTs, right? Shitcoins, for those who are not familiar, are kind of low value alternative coins, mainly coming out of like the ICO, initial coin offering era of crypto, pre-NFTs, right? And they were basically just vehicles for trading, right? And nobody was actually interested in what these coins would actually do. Instead, they were just trading them back and forth as a kind of an asset to trade that had its own price action, right? And we're seeing that trend kind of coming into NFTs. NFTs, for me, as someone who is interested in the art and culture side of things, are interesting because they are not shitcoins. They're illiquid, right? They have other aspects of value, either driven by aesthetics or these kind of rarity properties that we've talked about, or the fact that people might want to use them as a PFP on social media. They're, by definition, they're non-fungible, right? Each one is supposed to be unique, and that actually adds friction to the marketplaces, right? You can't just say, I'll buy 10,000 coins of whatever, because you're like, well, what coins am I getting there, right? It's like buying a big unopened box of trading cards, right? You don't know what you're gonna get, but if somebody has already picked over it, then you probably don't wanna buy that, right? You might wanna buy the unopened trading cards. And so there's this kind of trend of trying to push NFTs to be a more and more fungible asset, more interchangeable, more like just a random coin, right? And this is a trend personally, both as an artist and as someone who sees the kind of cultural potential of the NFT space for artists, I'm basically against. And so my response to this in creating the Night Run collection was to say, okay, there will be a built-in machine-readable rarity layer, meaning there's JSON metadata attached to the tokens, which can be read by scrapers, marketplaces, and the tokens can be automatically ranked in terms of rarity, which is something that Blur will do, right? It will say, okay, these are rare. OpenSea does it as well, right? There's only 3% of the collection have this trait, right? Well, what I did was I said, okay, there's one layer that actually has a rarity ranking, which is the collections property, right? And the way that the collections property functions in the world of the project is that in the game, if you have a token that has the collections 1 property, there are collections 1, 2, 3, and 4. Collections 1, you can put in your sector of the city that players are driving through one artwork, right? Which in my mind kind of creates a stronger impression, right? You're driving through this part of the city and you see only one thing, right? Those are the most rare. On the other end of the rarity spectrum are the collections 3s and 4s, which I think are probably the most common and generally the way that I would think about the experience of the game normally being, right? Is you're seeing mixes of different artworks and that people are putting 3 artworks together or 4 artworks together. Those are the most common. 4 being third most common and 3 being the most common, because 3, I think making sets of 3 things is kind of like a aesthetically pleasing thing. So I wanted to make those the most common in the game, right? That's what you're gonna be seeing most of the time. So that follows the kind of structured rarity approach that we expect from NFT collections and that the marketplace, websites, platforms, and collectors expect, right? And so as we've seen, those tokens that have the structured rarity have been trading at a premium because they're kind of objectively more rare in terms of the metadata. But the other thing that I chose to do, which was inspired by another NFT project called Familiar, but also we've seen it play out a little bit in CryptoPunks and some other projects, is to introduce a hidden to the machine visual layer of rarity where the visual components of the image are not cataloged. And this is a little bit of an experiment. We're kind of watching it play out. Certain visual components of the collection will be seen as valuable by collectors in a purely subjective way, right? So we have this idea of kind of now subjective versus objective rarity. For me, I wanted to kind of put my finger on the scale in favor of collectors who would actually look at the art and treat it as art rather than as a kind of an abstract and basically fungible token, right? I wanted to give a marketplace advantage to those collectors who would look at the visual rarity and look at the visual content of the artwork and make trading decisions based on that. And so that was why I hid throughout the collection a undisclosed number of unique one-of-one pieces that are not differentiated in terms of the rarity. There's no metadata information that allows you to identify them. You can only find them by looking at them. And I've watched those trade through the marketplaces. And some people who have minted them have figured out what they have, and some people haven't, which has been interesting and is also, I think, a interesting artistic performance or intervention or whatever you want to call it. This is then a blockchain NFT native artistic commentary on the state of the medium now, right, in 2023, in the midst of these marketplace wars and this kind of bear market dynamic that we're in. This is me intervening into that marketplace system and saying, these are the people that I want to give alpha or advantage to, right? I want to give it to collectors who look at the images and appreciate and treat these as artworks. I think it's very much an open question as to whether this will succeed, be understood, fail. There's a dedicated group of collectors in the Night Run Discord who are paying attention and who are using this information and approach to kind of trade and gain advantage, which I appreciate. And in my mind, they're kind of experiencing the artwork in the most kind of complete way, right? Many people are trading obliviously, right? Which is also, I think, an interesting component of the work, right? It's an interesting part of the story of the work that people are ignoring this, right? And actually sticking to the structured metadata. And so it's a little bit of a kind of ongoing story that I'm watching and some of the members of our community are watching and paying attention to. But it's an important part of the way that I'm thinking about the Night Run NFT collection as a blockchain native, medium specific artwork. So that's what we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry about my extremely raspy voice. Hopefully I'll be back to my normal chipper self soon, but I want to get this video out. As always, drop a like on the video for the algorithm, subscribe if you're not already, and leave me a comment down below if this sparked any thoughts or questions for you. Thanks so much. See you next time.